Hey everyone, welcome back to On Purpose, the #1 health podcast in the world. Thanks to each and every single one of you. Thank you so much for coming back every single week to listen, to learn, and to grow. I'm grateful for each and every single one of you, and I don't take you for granted at all. Now, you know that my promise to you is to try and connect with guests and bring on guests that I really believe are going to help you find your purpose, live more passionately, live more deeply, and create a life where you get to impact and serve so many people around you. And today's guest is going to share just how to do that in so many incredible experiences that she's had in her life. Today's guest is none other than Julianne Hough. She's an American dancer, actress, singer, and Emmy award-winning choreographer. She's a 2-time professional champion of Dancing with the Stars. She also sat on the other side as a judge on America's Got Talent and Dancing with the Stars. Her first leading acting role was in 2011 film remake of Footloose, and she's also known for her work on Rock of Ages, Safe Haven, Heartstrings, and Fox's live television presentation of the musical Grease. She'll be joining Oprah on the 9-city 2020 Vision Tour, Your Life in Focus. I'm so happy to welcome to the show, Julianne Hough. Julianne, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I could have gone on and on about you. So that was like the condensed, that was the condensed version.
It's kind of fun and crazy to hear that all back because sometimes you just keep going and doing and you forget what you've done. And so sometimes it's a nice little like, oh, actually, you did good.
That's exactly my intention. So when I'm reading those introductions, obviously for the audience, I want them to recognize the incredible success, but also just the joy that you brought to so many people. And I'm hoping that for you, when you're hearing that, it's giving you that boost to just recognize like how much you've done. And you're so right that we live in this world where it's always like, what's the next thing?
Totally.
What's the next accomplishment? And you forget to actually even, actually that's a good place to start. Like,
sure.
How have you, with all this success that you've experienced year after year and it's been a long career. I mean, you started dancing when you were 8 years old.
Yeah, totally.
How have you tried to continue to celebrate, honor, and value these incredible milestones?
It's definitely a moment that I have to remind myself to do because I am the type of person that the more creativity, the more I'm doing, the more I want to keep going. And so sometimes I find myself where I will have this unbelievable experience or release a new single or have this premiere. And then the next day I'm on to something else because I'm creating so much all the time. And it's a constant reminder like, okay, hang on, stay present, stay focused on just like being in the moment and actually celebrating. I think when we don't celebrate, we forget to build a memory, and memories are what our lives are made of. So if we have accomplished all these things, they're just accomplishments. They're not memories. And so I think, finding that time and that space to actually like relish in what you just created is super important.
I love that difference between an accomplishment and a memory.
Yeah,
I think that's awesome. That's so beautiful. I couldn't agree with you more. I feel the same way that one of the biggest challenges is that when something goes negative, we kind of think about it for days.
Yes.
And weeks.
And we hold on to that.
And we hold on to that. But when something goes really well, like you said, it's almost like, oh yeah, cool. Like what's the next thing? 100%. And so that's why we find it so much more easier to have negative memories or negative things that pull us back into our past rather than the positive ones that we celebrate. I recently did my show in LA and I actually was thinking about this on the way home. So we'd been preparing for this show. We put on this show. It was my first ever live show in LA. It was a lot of fun. It went really well. All my friends came to support.
Which congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. No, it was just a very beautiful experience. But the reason why I'm sharing it is I was in the Uber on the way back home, or my driver driving me home in the evening. And I was actually thinking about this. I was actually thinking, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I already have a long list of things that I have to get on with anyway. Yeah. And I was thinking about this on the way home and I was thinking, when am I going to get to really honor today and just experience it? And I was thinking about this. And then I get home and my wife threw me a surprise after party here. And so I walk in and all my friends were here, like everyone was here. And I was just like, and everyone had stayed up, so late to be there. And I was just like, oh, wow. And I remembered this thing that it was my coach when we were growing up. He'd always say that if things are going badly, cry for one night and then move on the next day. Yeah. And if things go well, celebrate for one night and then get on with it the next day. And I was just like, I love that. Anyway,
That's really
you
great.
just reminded me of that.
No, that's amazing. I mean, that's sort of my experience in all these accomplishments is I would win Dancing with the Stars and I would just get on a plane to go to press and then the next thing would happen. Whereas some of my other colleagues that were on the show, they'd have like parades at their home and like people would be celebrating them. And I remember like one year I looked at that and I was like, that's so cool. That is so awesome that they are celebrating it. And I was like, I need to take a page from that book for sure. So more recently than not, I try to stop myself and be like, okay, just like at least take 10 minutes at least, just to like be like, you did something amazing and you should recognize that.
Absolutely. Well, I want to take a moment to say that beyond all of these accomplishments, even before we met today, I just want to say your energy shines through even the screen on whether it's Instagram or YouTube or when we were DMing and connecting, I was just like your energy just completely breaks through the screen.
Wow, thank you.
Like in such a beautiful, positive way. And I just want to say that to me is the greatest accomplishment because it's so hard to be able to spread that much incredible infectious energy through a screen. And so I was so excited to meet you today.
Thank you. I feel like that's the most important thing. It's like you can accomplish so many different things or have these successes, but the energy that's behind it, the encoded energy is what I like to call it. If it's not integral and authentic and totally on purpose, then people feel that. And you feel that. And when it feels absolutely just out of pureness. Like I feel like pure is my word this like last month. I keep using it in such a like vast array. But when in this like pure expression, that's the energy that people are going to receive. And that's why it's infectious. So for a long time, I didn't understand what that meant. And I was kind of just doing it. And then I realized and I had the awareness of what that encoded energy was behind everything that I do. And that's actually shifted my entire trajectory of my life. And I never want to not feel what that feels like.
Wow. I love that. Sounds like it's such an amazing place. And so today we're actually going to start the interview.
Okay, we'll start now.
Like, I want to know, you come from a huge family.
I do.
A big family.
Yeah, really big.
Is that where this energy started? Like, is that where this kind of came from? Or
I mean,
tell me what the joy of
even
having a big family.
Before I was born. I mean, my dad on his side of the family, I mean, they would dance and sing. My grandparents, my grandfather on my dad's side, he actually grew up in LA and has this story of dancing with Judy Garland when she was shooting The Wizard of Oz. And that was just like his moment of dance. It was like the first time in his life. And then me growing up with them at our like family reunions, my grandpa and my grandma would dance every single day. In fact, up until the day that he died, they danced every single morning. And that was part of their routine and their ritual every morning. And that to me, I think is one of the most beautiful expressions is that body connection and like activating your life force energy. And when you do that, then you can access your emotional field and all the things that are around you. And that's where the like positive energy comes from. So yes, my grandparents on my dad's side, on my mom's side, we're like a hurricane because we all come through. The volume is loud, louder, and loudest. And when we all get together, it's just, it's wild, but it's fun.
A beautiful hurricane.
It's a beautiful hurricane.
Yeah, absolutely. Very special. Yeah. That's awesome. Everyone just gets swept away.
Swept away. We get wrapped up in it. Music is like our life. We listen to music, we dance, we connect. And that's where we really created this undying like tie where even though we might have a lot of drama in our lives, at least it's spoken. Whereas, you know, a lot of families, unfortunately, have swept things under the rug and stuff like that. And so with us, we might not sweep it under the rug and it might be crazy, but at least we talk about it.
Yeah.
And we're able to work through it. So.
How do you think, that's a really good point you're bringing up, because especially during like, you know, right now we're sitting in between holiday season.
Yeah.
And so many people struggle to be around their family or have those tough conversations or those awkward conflicts. How do you think that you've been able to encourage your family and you and each other to feel, like you're saying, sometimes it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But how do you feel you've all built that comfort to be able to get there? What's it taken?
I think it's my family has created an environment where we act out of love versus fear. And we're not afraid to speak truth And so we were just together for Thanksgiving, and it was magical and beautiful, but also there was some drama. But it was okay because we have created an environment where we feel safe enough to speak what is going on, and we are encouraged to do so. So that's always been our life growing up, and we're fortunate that way, whereas a lot of families aren't. And the holidays can be really tough. It can be a magical and, spiritual and beautiful experience, and it can also be a really hard time for people.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Learning how to speak from truth rather than fear, and behave from truth rather than fear, and love rather than fear. Love rather than fear.
Yeah.
I think that's such a huge lesson for all of us.
Well, that was one of my biggest lessons, I think, that I learned probably about 6 years ago, was in order to fully be able to give and receive this like pure kind of love. If I'm acting out of fear of like hurting someone or something like that, then I'm really not being integral. And if I'm not, then they're not going to be able to receive the pure love that I actually want to give. And so I always say, I'm saying this out of love.
Yeah.
I'm saying this out of love.
A close friend of mine used to suffer from asthma when he was younger, and he realized the harmful chemicals in cleaning products would always make it worse. I encourage you to make sure you're not using harmful products in your home, so please check to see that you're not. Now, my friend only uses healthy, eco-friendly products in his home, and it's so easy to make sure he's doing that with Grove. Grove Collaborative is an online market that delivers all natural home, beauty, personal care products directly to your door. I'm a fan and couldn't picture myself or my wife ever using conventional products again. They just make it simple to get high quality products. If you want to go green this year, they take the guesswork out of it and make it easy. Regardless, if you have any health issues, it's important to be strict on the products you use daily in your home. I want to stress that those all-purpose cleaners your family used to use are full of harmful chemicals that have been linked to everything from respiratory problems to cancer. Grove makes healthier home products accessible and affordable. And we, in our home, we shop Grove for non-toxic dish soap, plant-based skincare, and tree-free bath tissue. Everything available at Grove is healthier for you and the planet, and that's so important. For a limited time, when my listeners go to grove.co/J, you will get a free 5-piece cleaning set from Mrs. Meyer's and Grove, a $30 value. Go to grove.co/J to get this exclusive cleaning offer. That's grove.co/J. It's not unlikely for health experts to say it's okay to eat a list of foods and the following year it's totally unhealthy. It's difficult to know what protocol to follow when it comes to getting all your vital nutrients to keep you at 100%. And there is absolutely no such thing as a perfect diet. But I do believe there is a perfect supplement, and Athletic Greens is that. If you had to only get one supplement in during your day, Athletic Greens is a no-brainer. If you want to boost your energy, strengthen your immune system, or support gut health, this is for you. With 75 vitamins, vegan-friendly minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, plus the antioxidant equivalent of 12 servings of fruit and veg, I highly doubt you'll find more comprehensive nutrition in one spot. I know a lot of top performers, entrepreneurs, athletes, and Olympians that trust this brand. The packaging is neat and simple. I love the travel packs, which allow me to take one right after my morning workout. You'll feel great mentally and physically the whole day after taking it. Now, whether you're an athlete pushing for better performance or just wanting to make sure you're not deficient in nutrients, Athletic Greens takes the guesswork out of everyday good health. Why not just try it? Jump over to athleticgreens.com/purpose and get your special holiday offer today. 20 free travel packs valued at $79 with your first purchase. That's athleticgreens.com/purpose. Yeah, absolutely. I know we were talking about briefly earlier, we were talking about Ayurveda and all these things. So I don't know what you've just said. I don't know if you ever came across it, but in the Bhagavad Gita, it's called the modes of material nature. And it said that actions can either be practiced out of mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness. And fear sits as an ignorance motivator.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, spot on. When you're acting from a place of ignorance or fear, that's never going to lead to anything positive. It can't, even if it feels like it does in the moment sometimes.
Exactly.
You feel protected, but it's like a fake protection.
It's fake protection, and then it builds up more like layers. And then the truth, you don't even understand what the truth is anymore because you've built up so many layers that you can't even understand if what you're saying is truthful because there's so many layers of fear on top of it. So it's a lot of delayering that has to happen to get to that authentic, true, pure love.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to constantly happen, everyone watching. We're like going to try and go down a track and then we're going to get lost, but it's going to be good. I'm bringing it back. At 8 years old, you showed the world a hidden talent.
I did.
Do you remember?
I don't know. What was it?
You have to remember.
What was my hidden talent?
You don't remember?
Oh, I have this thing.
Yeah.
Is this what it is?
Go on.
Also,
That's
it's like
amazing.
the only song that I know how to do.
Now you know why I didn't do it. Like I was just like, how do I?
We'll come back
I was
to
like,
that.
I was like, how do I do that? Because I don't even know how. I don't even know how. Does anyone in the world actually do that?
I mean, now that I've done it, maybe people can try and show us how to do it.
How did you invent that at 8 years old?
Honestly, my imagination. One thing that was, again, really good about my childhood is like my mom was just like the most imaginative person, and we would just play constantly, and music was always our biggest go-to. So I have no idea.
Is that called music?
This is music.
Yeah,
this is like a rap, but like
it's a rap music,
I have no
It's
idea.
like a baby rapping with, I don't know. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I also have this one.
Go on.
Daddy, I'm stuck in the closet. Get me out of here.
That is so good. Oh my God, that is crazy. Have you ever done a voiceover for?
I have not, but that's
That is-
actually a dream of mine to do that.
Who would you play? Because I literally just saw Frozen 2 the other day.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's amazing.
Well, this is kind of crazy. Side note, here we go, tangenting again. But so my company, Kinergy, is all based in the elements. And like our guides and our staff and our employees and everything, they went and saw it and they're like, Julianne, Kinergy is Frozen too. I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, no, seriously. Like it literally is all based in the elements and how you connect to ether. And like, that's our Kinergy state. So anyway, we'll get to that. That's a tangent. But no, I would love to do a voiceover. That is like my dream, to do some sort of Little Mermaid was my dream character growing up, where I could like sing and,
But what you just did right now was literally so good.
I don't know if that's like princess material.
Yeah, I think it's perfect princess material. That's the kind of princess we need. Like I love it. No, I can see you doing so many. That was amazing, by the way. I'm still. I want you to do it again. Just now that we have it recorded.
Which one?
Forever.
The in the closet one.
Yeah, in the closet one.
Daddy, I'm stuck in the closet. Get me out of here.
I just no idea how you do it. That's amazing. I love it.
Fun.
I love it. Now I have it recorded twice. No, let's talk about Kinergy, and let's take that because like you said, you've been very mysterious.
Yes, we have.
And I'm fascinated by it because of so much of my study and my background, what I get interested in.
Yeah.
But tell us about it. Tell us about what you're trying to build for people. And I think from what you just told me, it sounds like Frozen 2, so you should definitely see it. But yes, go.
So I have not seen Frozen 2. I promise this came to me over the last 2 years. But really it spawned off of my own transformational journey of really coming back to myself and that whole delayering and shedding and finding my truth. And I realized that one of the best modalities for me specifically was my body and movement. And with movement, that's one thing. But then when you visualize and you connect to the elements, that's a whole other thing. And then when you add breath work at the same time, and it's this trifecta, it's movement, breath, and visualization. And you combine the three, it's like this power source where you can connect to flow in a really powerful and quick way. For people who maybe can't sit and meditate because the stillness is too hard. Yes. Like for me, I need movement in order to clear my mind. And so to surrender my mind. So I surrender my mind to my body and then I go into, that state. And so with Kinergy, basically I've taken the modalities of breath work, visualization, and movement, and then added in the elements of earth, fire, water, air, and ether. And it's become, yes, it's a method that is fitness and dance related, but really it's more about the transformation that happens and more of the philosophy and how the answers are all within you and you don't have to go outside of yourself. Because really at the end of the day, it's about once I can connect to myself, I can then relate and understand the people around me. And that's when this happens.
100%.
And then you see each other for who each other really are. And then you get to experience the world in its most true and pure form, which is love.
I love that.
So-
Love that. Where can we start practicing?
Well, we're launching with Oprah
Yes.
in 2020 on her tour.
Yes.
And that was one thing that was really different about our modality of how we were going to bring Kinergy to the world. We had different business models. We were going to start as a brick and mortar studio, the Soul Cycle of Dance, right? And then we were like, well, we want to reach more people. Maybe we should do an online platform so we can reach people. And then we were like, it's about human connection. It's that experience. In order to feel something fully, you have to experience it. And I'm such an environment person. I walked in here and I was like, whoa, the sensual environment person in me is freaking out right now. This is making me feel really good and safe and calm. And so, of course, thank you. And so we really just want to give the experience to as many people as possible so they can feel it and know that everything that they need is already within them. We just want to give you a couple little tools and then you can go do it yourself.
I love that. I really hope I'm going to get to come and watch
and experience it, yes.
Because I think you're spot on. I love what you're doing there because I think you're so right. Like there's a whole section of my book that's coming out next year that I talk about this, and it's all about immersive experience.
Yes.
And just how like this whole model of doing something for 5-10 minutes a day is nice and it's cool, but it's like if you really want to have an experience and honor it and keep it and have it transform you, integrate it, and have it heal you, it needs to be immersive.
Yeah.
And that can't be done through technology or it can't be done through, what was the other, like just through a bricks and mortar or whatever. It needs to be a created experience, a hub.
1,000%. And I love that you said a created experience because again, our business model is that like, yes, this might have come through me, but at the end of the day, we all create Kinergy together and that it's an equal opportunity, collaborative expression. So when we take the class together, I didn't create this class environment. We all did because our collective energy together is what created this experience and the safety, and we work together. So by taking care of yourself first, thank you for taking care of yourself, you get to hold a space for the people around you as well. And then that happens. And there's something magical that happens in the method as well. It's the hero's journey.
Yes.
And so by the time we go through it in the arc, people go through air, which is like the breakthrough moment, and then their eyes are closed. And as they open their eyes, it's like, there's like a little gap in their smile and they're just like smiling and their eyes are there and they're so still and calm. They're completely grounded and completely expanded at the same time. And I've never experienced anything like it. It's like, I know what my transformation felt like for me to feel free. But then when you see other people feel that, that's like, that's what makes my heart soar, you know? Oh, it's the best.
Absolutely. I love that. No, I love that. And I'm so glad that what you're saying is so true, that meditation is different for everyone.
Yes.
And also I think different types of meditation bring out different things in all of us. I know that a lot of the kirtan that we used to do, I don't know if you've ever been in a kirtan.
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. All right.
Tell me
we need
about
to get
it.
you over. Okay. Kirtan is probably is the unorganized version of what you just said.
Okay.
Like, imagine that all happening extremely organically, extremely almost randomly, still synergetically, but not as much. It's still got intention. It's not that it's intentionless.
Yeah.
It's just less crafted and creative, maybe. But we'll have to experience one in India together.
I would love that.
Yeah. But that sounds beautiful. I can't wait to experience it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for co-creating.
Co-creating. It's flowed through.
I know what you mean by that though, because I think we forget that when things are going wrong, like people forget that every experience is co-created.
Yeah.
Because if, for example, even if a stand-up comic is doing their show and one person in the audience is heckling or acting badly, it affects everyone's
experience. The whole thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in the same way as if someone's energetically not connected to what you're co-creating, then that's going to affect everyone's experience. I think we forget that.
Yeah, it
We forget
100%
that.
does. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that when we're so reliant on other people's energy in order to make us feel better, then we're completely dependent constantly. And so it is our responsibility. And I don't say responsibility because sometimes that word can be taken as pressure, but I say it in a like empowering way of like, yes, I have the choice and I have the responsibility for myself, that I get to create what kind of energy I want to have for myself and put out there. Yeah. And I'm not dependent or relying upon everyone else's, and that it's going to shift mine. Mm-hmm. And so that's really at the core of Kinergy, is like how to help people connect to themselves so strongly and so just oof. I don't know the word for it, but just that it doesn't matter what's going on around you. You have your bubble of like, this is my space.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Can't wait to experience it.
Yes.
And what I love about that so beautifully is now that dance is, like, this is dance and healing, transformation, growth. When you started dancing when you were 8 years old, did you ever imagine it? Was it healing then? And what was the hardest thing about dance at 8 years old?
You know, I mean, 8 was when I really started competing and really taking it into more of a disciplined facet. But I mean, dance has been my voice for so long. I mean, you hear me in interviews sometimes. I mean, I'm my worst critic, but sometimes I feel like I don't express myself in my language and my vocabulary as well as I do with my body. And so dance has always been my superpower, in the sense that it was my language. My body was my language for me to express emotions or experiences that I didn't know how to verbally communicate. And so yes, I could say the answer is yes. It gave me so much transformation and healing in the moment that I didn't even know that I had experienced. And when I moved to London when I was 10, there was a lot of crazy things that were going on in my world. I left home. I wasn't with my family. I had a very rigorous schedule of like basically waking up at 6 a.m. and finishing at 11 p.m. every night. And hard work and determination. And if I was sick, it didn't matter. I had to keep going. And so built up a lot of great, work ethic. But at the same time, I couldn't complain. I couldn't express how I felt. It was really difficult. And so I realize now as an adult, if I didn't have my dancing, my anxiety and my depression would have gone through the roof.
Wow.
Because I didn't know how to speak. I actually wasn't really given an opportunity to also have a voice. And so my dancing actually shifted and moved the energy within my body for me to feel like I actually could transform that energy that would have therefore been stuck. And so I'm so grateful for my dancing. And yeah, that's why I really believe in the body. We talked about this earlier.
Yes.
Your mind is so important about how you perceive and your awareness and everything, but your body, if you're not connecting the two, it's like cognitively I can understand things, but how am I really going to transform the experience and the story and the expression of it?
Absolutely. And I think everyone, whether it's through dance or some sort of practice, is looking for their voice.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's when we feel so blocked, is when we don't have that outlet of expression, whatever that may be, whether it's singing or whether it's singing, dancing, meditation, journaling, writing, whatever it may be. Yeah. It's like we're all looking for that. And it's almost like because we're not creatively encouraged when we're young, if it's not something that's pushed or encouraged, you lose the outlet. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Well, I think about it all the time that babies, I mean, they dance in their high chair when music comes on before they learn how to crawl or walk or talk or any of it. And then it's like, when did you decide that you weren't a dancer or that you weren't a good dancer? And like when they say, oh, I don't dance or I'm not a good dancer. Well, when did you decide that you weren't? Because when you were a kid, you were a baby, you weren't worried if like your parents thought you were doing it good or not, You were just free in your body. And then somewhere along the line, either someone said that you weren't good enough or something happened and you took on this role or this identity that that's not who you are. Yeah. When in fact, like our bodies are designed to move.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to show you. I don't think you know this. I'm going to have to show you. My wife still dances like a child and posts it on Instagram every single day.
That is
literally
my spirit animal.
I need to show it to you. Like that is literally her. Like she's just and she does it in the house too. Like I always say to everyone, it's not just for Instagram. Like she'll do it from the moment we wake up to when I come back home, and she'll just burst out into like literally a childlike move.
I love that.
And you're so right. Like it also just it's what you're saying is when you see a child do that, it's such contagious energy. Like you can't help but smile and laugh and let go and cry and like, be happy.
And then your imagination starts running wild. And that's where I think like our creativity has sometimes been a little dwindled because we've gone into this adult mode of like execution instead of imagination. And like we were talking about Walt Disney earlier and how like his innovation was just all about creativity and playing. And we've stopped playing.
Yes.
And like, so kinergy is kin, which is like tribe and family, but also kinder, which is like kindergarten and child and wonderment. And then kinetic is movement and then energy, obviously.
Yeah.
But that childlike wonderment for me is one of the most like key disciplinaries to focus on and reconnect to when I feel like overwhelmed or something. I have to go and play. Have you ever read The Artist's Way?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So
unbelievable. Yeah,
like for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go take myself on an artist date.
Yeah, highly recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll go like fly a kite, something that a kid would do.
Yes.
Versus a date that like me as 31 would go do.
Yes. I completely agree with that. There's a beautiful statement by George Bernard Shaw. He said, we don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because we stop playing. Yeah.
So true.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I think that's why I'm going to Disney World.
Yeah,
that's exactly. It's the same reason. Like now that you've helped me articulate that, because every time everyone's like, Jay, like I thought you were deep, and I'm like, no, I am deep. Like there's something deep.
Walt Disney World is deep.
Deep, yeah.
That is deep.
Yeah,
I mean, Frozen 2, changing the world. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Or Inside Out. That movie.
Yeah, Inside Out. Yeah, exactly.
I'm telling you, when you look at animation movies, sorry, I'm tangenting
No,
again.
do it.
This is my brain. I go all over the place. But yeah, when you look at those movies, I mean, the messages are so impactful, and like that's the thing that we encourage our like children to see and to experience. But like, when are we feeding our minds as adults that way too? And I mean, you're obviously helping us do that with your podcast and your just work and your impact that you're putting out in the world. And I really believe that there is a shift that's happening, and people are more curious and more hungry than they've ever been. And it's such an exciting time. But that's also how I choose to look at it.
Yeah.
It can be a very scary time right now, but I choose to look at it as, wow, this is such a time of change and shifting, and like, whoa, this is awesome.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that completely. And I think you too, it's like, this is what I love about this, is the collaboration between two people who are doing, I feel we have the same values. I feel we're trying to achieve the same thing for the world. And we're doing it in our own unique ways.
Yes.
And that's what I love, is that we
don't have to do the same thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
And we need everyone to do their unique thing to help the world.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be people that are going to need movement. There are going to be, I mean, I think everyone needs movement, but there's just going to be multiple different types
modalities
of
how. Yeah, whatever works for you.
Exactly.
And there's room for everyone to have their own unique creative outlet.
Yeah. Tell me about the mastery though, because what I'm fascinated by with you is that when I hear you speak, and of course with where you are right now in your work, it is very flow state, it is creative, it is expressive. But you mentioned earlier about discipline. And what I'm fascinated by is the balance that exists between having been disciplined and rigorous and focused on an art.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it, which is more like this dynamic expression. Because I think often people get lost in either or.
Yes.
Like we get a lot of artists who be like, oh no, but I'm just artistic and I'm just expressive and like, I just let it loose. And they're like, yeah, great. Okay, cool. But maybe that's not scalable. Maybe that's what you were saying earlier. Like that's maybe not a business model, but that's not strategic. That's not. And then the other side is like, okay, I'm so disciplined that I don't even know my feelings anymore. And I'm just dancing because I know the move and the choreography.
Exactly.
Tell us, because you're both.
Oof.
You are both. Like I feel
Thank you. Thank you. It's taken me a long time to figure it out, and I'm still figuring it out. And it's an ebb and flow. I get in moments where I'm so business oriented and like execution mode, and I tend to be very short in my emails.
Me too. I'm the
and
worst.
I'm so bad. And like I'm super short. My shadow side tends to go to irritability and like I get it so quickly that I'm like, how do you not get this? So like I have my shadow side for sure. But I have this like, that's my business brain. And it's great. And then I'll notice that all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I need to go, I need to take a step back and go into my creativity. And, there's a big conversation about masculine, feminine energy. And I feel like sometimes if you're not fully educated or understand it completely or want to learn about it, it just sounds like a gender thing. Yes. And obviously we know that it's an energetic thing. Mm-hmm. But I believe that my male energy is much more execution-based, forward-thinking, high vibration, like boom, let's go. Whereas my feminine energy is much more like boom, drop down, more deep, a little bit more tangenty, which is why I think I'm much more my feminine right now, where it's a lot more like spacious and I can kind of sit in something and not get anything done. And so it's just having that awareness where I'm like, whoa, I'm totally in my creative female or I'm in my male masculine like execution mode right now. And having the weave, learning how to weave in and out is an art. It's a skill. But it's a dedicated skill. Yes. And I think that for a long time, you're a student in something and then you start doing what you're doing and then you just continue doing what you're doing and then you feel stuck. So my greatest advice of how to balance it is continue to be a student and be curious. There's a difference, I believe, of being open versus curious. I think when you're open, you're kind of like, cool, I'm open. Prove it to me. Whereas when you're curious, you're like, whoa, I want to know more. Yes. Tell me. Or like, I want to dive into it. And so it's the being open, but being curious as well.
I love that. And this is, you're teaching us by sharing. That's exactly what it means to be a student. Like this, being able to define these words for yourself and differentiate between them. Yeah. And knowing when you feel, okay, I'm just being open for being open or am I being really curious? Yeah. That self-awareness is beautiful and so high. Yeah, I love that. Thanks. You've said before, and I'm quoting you, you said before, you hate feeling satisfied. How did you?
What year was this?
Yeah. How did you shift from that mindset? Because I'm guessing you don't feel that way now. Yeah. But I feel like I don't think that's the reason why I'm asking is I think a lot of people listening or watching right now could potentially identify with that.
Yeah. My goodness. I think, okay, so let me go back. Yeah. This is my tangent brain.
Go back.
So go back to in England, or even before that, I was born to be a competitor, or not born, sorry, let me rephrase that. I was conditioned to be a competitor. And if I was not winning, I felt like I was losing, even though I was doing great. So if I, was competing in England and I was second place, but I really had put in the work, it was not good enough. So I had this not good enough mentality pretty much my whole life and a comparison. And when I came out to LA, I did not understand that I had built that conditioning and that was a nurturing that I had formed for myself. So at 18, I was a hustler. I was like, boom, let's go, let's do this. And like not taking no for an answer. I believed, I dreamed big, and I said what I wanted and it happened. Like that, I could manifest. It was a whole thing. And I started having this beautiful career where I was winning Dancing with the Stars back to back. I got a record deal. I won Best New Female Vocalist, Best New Artist. I had a #1 album. I was touring with George Strait and Brad Paisley. I did a movie with Tom Cruise. Like all these things were just happening and it was incredible. And at 25, I was like, why do I feel so empty? Because it was like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And that was when I went to my first Tony Robbins seminar, which my brother told me to go to. And that's where the awareness clicked in. And that was the beginning of my healing journey. So before being 25, I was never satisfied. And I hated that feeling of satisfaction because I felt like I was dying. Felt like I was literally in like a sand pit sinking and I was stuck and like life was over. And so I had to just keep moving. Now I'm learning that actually being still and being satisfied, being grateful and present and celebrating actually gives me a moment to digest, take it in, create a beautiful memory, and then move forward.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I've almost like gone through a process enough to now open up more space, where it almost just felt like the only direction I had was forward and in this like very small parallel box. And it was just forward, but I could go really fast. And now it's like not being satisfied being satisfied and actually just like letting it be. All of a sudden, I have a 360 view.
Yeah,
to go in any direction.
Yeah, that 360 view is so powerful because now you've just opened up the lens, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just having this narrow corridor to walk down.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's fun.
Wow. Yeah, so much more fun.
Yeah.
But it's not, it wasn't easy.
No, definitely not. And I still struggle with it today.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, I was just in New York and doing press and singing, and I got the holiday special coming out, like all these things. And then I took a red eye and this, and it feels so good. Like all this energy feels amazing and momentum. And I'm like, oh, I know I'm going to burn out in a minute. I better like step back for a second and like feel satisfied.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And now you just have that awareness to know that.
Yeah.
And you've kind of got to go over that ledge
to
then rein yourself back in and know that that's going to happen. And I think that's, to me, that's just how it is. It's just knowing that sense, right?
Yeah.
You don't know until you can be busy and things are growing great.
Until you know.
Yeah, exactly. You can't expect. And I think that's the other pressure of like, oh, you're expected to always stay in optimal health and optimal this and optimal that. But it's like, but you can't always, because sometimes you will just deep dive into something and then realize, okay, now I need to slow down again.
Well, that's where like these nervous breakdowns happen, is that like we keep pushing ourselves so much and our bodies are so capable, more capable than we think, that like, and our minds are more capable, that we go past actually what we're supposed to. So then we like our adrenals burn out and then we actually just like completely crash. So if you do have that awareness in between it all, and you can go back and forth and like reconnect and then go back out, reconnect, go back out, that's where the weaving and that's the skill set that starts to come into play. It's wild.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And when you're feeling when you have been burnt out or disconnected, or, you know, feeling that you've run out, what's been your approach in that position? Because I think maybe some people who are listening and watching today may already be there. Yeah. If they're not on the verge of it. What's been your thought process when you're actually burnt out and stuck, or feeling like you're stuck?
Finding whatever modalities work for you, but finding what worked for me to reconnect to myself. And that meant not always feeling happy. I needed to connect to myself to feel the deep amount of sorrow or the pain. And I mean, you know, The Prophet, obviously, that book, but the chapter on joy is talking about how you cannot have joy without sorrow. And if you're only expecting to feel in love, the beauty and the this, then you're going to be wildly disappointed, because you're only going to love this much, or you're only going to shed this amount of tears or laugh this much, versus the wide capacity and range of emotion that we actually should have as a human experience. And so I think for me, it's like the idea of having a vast pendulum swing is more beautiful than feeling just positive all the time. And that's been my journey the last couple of years, of reconnecting to myself and allowing myself to actually go through it, versus the little black dot and going around it and above it. And I'm really skilled at doing that. So I've done it my whole life. Yep. I know how to positively think my way out of situations. I have tools for days. Like I have so many tools, I'm tooled out. And so, you know what? I actually just have to go through it. Yeah. And that has been my journey of when I am totally burnt out, I have to just reconnect to myself and be like, wow, I feel super disconnected. Ugh, or like literally make sound and be like, ugh, like this is actually what it feels like to feel like crap. Yeah. And acknowledge that I don't feel good. And then when you can actually acknowledge it, then I feel like you can actually move through it quicker. Yeah. I think that's why I've been really open recently. Like press is always like, so you're really open about things. Why? And I'm like, why not? Because I feel like if I don't talk about it or express it in whatever form that may be, it just sits there longer. And it's just another form of suppression. So if I really want to, open up and connect back to myself again so I can keep moving forward and creating, I have to feel the ugly parts too.
100%. And it's like our bodies do that. When you were making those sounds and just saying like, it's almost like sound vomit or like voice vomit. It's just like, if your body doesn't like something that you ate, it gets rid of it. Like, it gets rid of it. But most of us are eating thoughts or feelings and not getting rid of it in any way.
And then it just stacks and stacks and stacks. So you don't even know what the original thought was that made you feel sick or made you feel unworthy or made you feel, scared. Yeah. So, yeah.
And all of a sudden you're fighting about something that you don't care about and
or that's like not even the issue. Yeah. It's just the Band-Aid on top, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No. And I think that I'm happy that you're sharing more with press and being open, because I think
I am the voice. I am the narrator of my story.
Totally. They can't change it because it is what it is. And also, I think you're going to encourage more people to do the same. Yeah. Because I think people will say, "Oh, if she's doing it, then we should do it too," rather than always putting this filtered, version through of.
And I will say, thank you, by the way. Yeah. Thank you. I will say that maybe in the past I was a little bit more focused on the perception of who I was versus the truth of who I was. So maybe in the past, I would have decided to be open to help people. And that was from the outside in versus the inside out. And now I feel like, no, I want to speak my truth so that it's coming from within and from the inside out. And then the bonus is that if people can see themselves in me, then that's awesome.
Yes. That's not the goal. No, the goal is for yourself, but the natural outcome of that will be that people...
And then that actually just makes me so happy.
And that's great. That's what service is, right? Yeah. Like you're not doing it for that goal. You're not doing it because you want people to be happy or like you or agree with you. But that's going to be a natural byproduct of you living your truth. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And I'm so happy you're doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was going to say that your new Christmas, All I Want for Christmas is Love. And it's beautiful. Tell us about how that came up, because it's kind of connected to what we're talking now. Where did that originate from?
Oh my goodness. I mean, between that song, my music that I've been writing in the last 2 years, everything now has a through line. So in the past, I was a singer over here, I was a dancer over here, an actor here, a producer here, a business owner here, and they all felt very separate. And they all had different themes, and I could be an actor, but I would get a job because they hired me versus what I wanted to do. Right. And so when I actually started creating Kinergy and the transformation that I was going through, all of a sudden, all of my categories that were separate all just became one. And I realized that's my purpose. My purpose is to, one, connect back to the artist in me, not the performer, but and also to express my truth and help other people find their truth. And so it made everything so much easier. So going back to All I Want for Christmas is Love, that song represents everything that I stand for. And now my decisions are so easy about what I will and won't do, because if it lines up with my purpose and what I want to put out in the world, then that's a yes. If it doesn't, then that's a no. And it makes things super easy.
It so does.
Yeah.
And that through line takes time, right?
It does. Like it takes a lot of time.
It's almost like it couldn't have been there before. It's
not
like you should have figured it out earlier.
And also, like, I could have thought about that in my mind. That's a very easy answer. Yeah, sure. You want to put good things out that are aligned with you. But if I don't feel that inside of me, then it's just words. So it's experience in life that gets you to that point where you're like, whoa, okay, now I feel it. I'm owning it now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And that feeling that you're talking about there, that until you feel it, you talk a lot about trusting your body. Yeah. And that's a big part of Kinergy as well. Yes. It's like trusting your body. Tell us what that means, and what are some ways in which people can start that process of trusting their body? Yeah. Because I almost feel like we don't even know what that means, or we don't listen to our body. Yeah. We don't know how. Like the amount of people that I speak to that are not happy with what they're eating, or what we were
Yeah,
talking earlier, like
yeah.
eating and doing with their body and whatever. Like, tell us how you start that process or steps to start trusting our body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, like there's a reason why they call it mind, body, soul, you know? And it's like we have our mind and we have our body. So people go and work out and they feel better. They get the natural endorphins. They start dosing is what, like the dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, all that stuff, right? And you get that natural high because you're activating your life force energy. So I would encourage anybody to just move, even if that means like touching your body and waking it up and actually being intimate with yourself and be like, whoa, this is my body. This is me. Hey, welcome. Hello, you're back. And just actually like, our skin is our biggest organ of our body, and sometimes we don't even recognize that it's there. So just literally activating and waking up your body, Tai Chi, Qigong, like, I mean, if the people that do that live until they're like 120, I swear. Yeah. And like they're super active. And so I would just say anything to actually wake up your life force energy. And that's physical or what you eat, whatever again works for you to make you feel alive in your physical body. And then the magic is when you do have that awareness and that mental health component where you're becoming a student and you can now start recognizing, whoa, when I do this, all of a sudden I had this insight. And then that's when the mind and the body start connecting. And that's where you're like, whoa, this is where like anything is possible starts like becoming your vocabulary.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah. And I think that's such practical advice. I was teaching meditation to my genius community, my private coaching community online the other day. And I got everyone to give themselves a scalp massage. Yeah. Like for the first time, like even just pressing on their forehead, like their temple, and then this area and it's one of my favorite things to give myself. And I was just like, everyone was just like, oh, we've never done that before. Yeah. You've never been intimate with your own face before. And it sounds so strange, but when you do it, you're like, oh, I actually feel amazing. Totally. Just from reacting to trusting that it just needs a bit of pressure here or whatever it may be.
Well, one of my favorite things to do is literally just, I could sit, I could stand, it could take me 5 minutes, maybe even 2. And I just literally like scan my body and I you can touch it too. But just listening and being like, where do I feel disconnected? Or like, where do I feel connected? And then finding that place of connection. Oh, I feel it in my heart. And then just breathing into it and almost repeating like, I feel connected, I feel connected, I feel connected. And then finding that place of disconnection, being like, oh, I feel disconnected. And like kind of matching what that like, oh, that's actually the sound that I would be making if I felt disconnected. Yeah. And then actually then breathing from the connection and then sending it down to where it feels disconnected. And then all of a sudden you create so much space and now you feel connected in the place that didn't feel connected before. And you didn't have to take drugs to do that. You didn't need someone else to come and help you do that. That all came from you just being still for 1 second, connecting with your body and just listening. Yeah. But that's a hard thing to do if you don't have guidance. So again, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing.
Come on, you're teaching us. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I'm like, that's such a beautiful practice you just shared with us.
And it's so simple, and it's like, and there's so many modalities and like little exercises that people can do. And yeah.
Anyone who's listening, watching right now, as soon as you finish listening to this episode, I want you to do what Julianne just did right now. Like literally, I'm not joking. Like what she just described so beautifully and wonderfully right now, like that can make massive shifts. And like she said, you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to pay for anything. It's free. Like it's right there. Your body's right there teaching you every second of the day. Like you don't need to go anywhere or have anyone come and meet you. Like that's a beautiful practice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. One of my favorite times to do it too is right when you wake up. Because you're in that like theta wave state where you're like just waking up and your mind isn't as active. And so if you start connecting, you start your day in a way where you're like, whoa, now my life force energy is activated and can activate all these other energetic fields that are around me. Yeah. And you get to create how you step into the world that day.
Yes, absolutely. Tell us.
I'm big on body.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah. Body is my language for sure.
I love it. No, and like we're all living in a body, so it doesn't make any sense to not be. Tell us about. I love that. Tell us about some more of your practices or habits. Yeah. Either evening or morning or fitness that you swear by, like that you don't compromise. Yeah. Because you just think they're just integral. Because I think even if there are certain things that not everyone will do or can do, I do think that what you're sharing is super inspiring. And there are a few that people are going to pick up along the way. So I'd love to hear some.
Yeah, no, of course. So first thing in the morning, I try not to look at my phone for an hour. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
But that's definitely like my number one thing.
How have you trained yourself to do that?
I literally if I have to have an alarm, I'll turn my alarm off, turn my phone, and like put it in my drawer. Yeah. And then I immediately either do my morning pages. I have to listen to my body because sometimes I'm like, ooh, I want to go right into my morning pages and just write and flush out. Sometimes I had a dream and I want to write it out. Or sometimes I'm feeling like, oh, I did not like my sleep and I'm still feeling what I was feeling last night or something like that. And so I'll get up first, put a little bit of music on, and I'll do a movement meditation that I do that it's Kinergy based, where I move through the elements and visualize going into the earth and the roots and bringing up the fire and connecting to water and then air. And then like, whoa, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, okay, I'm activated. Here we go. and then I go and do my morning pages. So I do all that in my bedroom first. And then I have my moon deck cards that I just got recently that I'll pull a card because it's just fun. Like that's my fun imagination childlike thing that I like to do, and kind of leaving it up to chance of the unknown is like I'm doing all this stuff that I'm in control of, but then I like to do something where I feel like, I don't know, show me what today is going to be. And I take those with a grain of salt in the sense that it's like, hey, if it resonates, awesome. If it's something that I'm like, interesting. Okay. I'll either leave it or somehow it will come back to me during the day. And it's pretty cool. So I like having something that's a little unknown. And then usually I go, sorry, I'm taking you through like my whole morning.
Please,
okay.
I want to. That's the point. You're so sweet. You do not need to apologize. That's what this is for.
I tend to talk a little. But I do like a lukewarm lemon water just to like flush that out and just like feel like detoxified. And then I'll do a workout. Sometimes I don't have time for that, especially in the last few months. It's been a very, very busy time. But fortunately, because I have the tools to activate my body, I feel like I don't have to have my workout every day. Otherwise, my head will blow up, Whereas my husband, if he doesn't, his head will explode. So, we have our certain things. But that's usually like my morning. And then I have certain things that I do if I go into a meeting or if
tell us that.
Yeah, so again, it's all Kinergy based philosophy, if I can call it that. Yeah. But it's like I'll activate my earth and my fire before I go into like a powerful meeting, where in the past I would have felt like I had to be a man or I had to be in my masculine energy and push. And that's not authentically me. I'm very female. And so when I connect to that, I just wanted to connect a little bit more to my power, which is more of my fire and my earth. So I'll do that and go in. Or like our conversation today, I just really wanted to feel just open and see where it went. So I connected more to my water and allowed me to feel supported. So I'll do certain things to go into meetings or board meetings, that kind of stuff, versus like something like a conversation that's really about connecting with someone. So I'll do certain things like that. And then I'm a big believer in baths because I am a water sign, so I love water. That's where like I do a lot of my like meditations, and I feel like my creativity spawns from that. And then I try to go to bed early. I'm an early to bed and early riser for sure.
Absolutely. I love that. What I love about everything you just described is that everything's so intentional and it's reflective and it's thoughtful, because I think too many of us are running from one thing to the next thing to the next thing before actually preparing ourselves for whatever it is. I know whenever I'm having a guest on the podcast and we're doing something like this, I'm always, in my morning meditation and prayer, it's very much about how can I help people fall more in love with that person who's coming. Yeah. And how can I serve that person who's coming and hold space? Like for me, it's all about just holding space. Yeah. And I find that when I don't do that, or when that habit gets weakened or whatever it may be, that's when all these default patterns of like, oh, I've got to be like this, or I have to ask them, or, it becomes all about the technique. Yeah. when actually it's not really about that. It's so much deeper. So I love that. If everyone who's listening and watching right now, I want you to really think about what Julianne's saying. It's not about the specifics of her habits. It's about that she's built up a reflective practice, that you've built up a reflective practice where nothing is just winging it or hoping or default. It's all reflective, thoughtful, and intentional, which is amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I think for a long time I would prepare. And it would be more of, I said something earlier about being a performer versus being an artist. So I would prepare as the performer in the past, where I would know what I would want to say and I'd have it kind of, bullet pointed out, and like I had my structure. And then I would execute that. Whereas now I prepare my energy, I prepare my being to be present. Yeah. And then I trust now that what will come will be what's right.
Yeah.
And that is a hard thing to do.
It's so good to hear you say it.
It's a hard thing to do. And I'll be honest, like even coming in here today, because this is such a thing that I'm passionate about, and just philosophy and helping just put goodness into the world. Like it's an intimidating thing to come and speak with you because my, a little bit of my ego would be like, oh, I hope I say the right things and stuff like that. So I can feel my ego or the little anxiety, like, hey, just calm down. And like in my head, I'm like, shh, you're fine, shh, But then it's about, okay, instead of just trying to ignore it and push through, it's like, okay, you're there. I see you're a little nervous. Like just breathe into it. Everything's good. And then the more we started talking and getting to know each other, all of a sudden I was like, I know what I'm talking about, because this is my truth. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, all of that fear went away.
Yeah. I hope I didn't do anything to do.
No, you were perfect. Like, you're perfect. No. And you created this environment and you held the space for me to feel comfortable and safe. And not a lot of people do that. And so I've always relied on myself. So you contributed. We collectively created that. So, yeah.
And I love what you're just sharing, because you're talking about talking to your inner child.
Yeah.
And so often, it's the inner child that's telling us how we feel. And I feel the same way before I do a podcast. So before you came today, I'm the same way. Like it's no
We're all just nervous.
We're all nervous. Like it's no different for me. And for me, the way I've understood that is I'm nervous when I care.
Yeah.
And so that's been my way of dealing with my nerves, of like not just saying like, all right, go away, like I'm going to be really confident about this and blah, blah. It's like, no, it means I care. Yeah. How beautiful is that? Totally. Like I care, and like, okay, I'm going to be caring. Yeah. Like that's my being, because I'm like, that's what my inner child's telling me to do. Is my inner child's telling me to care. Yeah. And as long as I care, then I'm fine. And I think you're so right that our inner child, just as when we were children, or the way you sometimes see parents talk to children, it was just like, oh, stop feeling that way. Like stop thinking like that.
How about Mr. Rogers, by the way? Can we just
I've not seen it yet, but I know, I've seen the documentary. I haven't seen the movie.
Both are phenomenal.
I haven't seen the movie yet,
But you just notice that he will acknowledge the children in the room before the adults, and he'll talk to them in a way that little kid feels seen. And like, he's literally doing it to children, but like we all are children. And so how do we speak to ourselves like that? I don't know. I get so excited, and where can I see Mr. Rogers' old like clips now? Because I want to watch them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Me too. I think we never grew up on it in London, definitely. So I didn't even know what it was until the documentary came out. Oh. And then I've been wanting to go and see the movie as well, and I haven't seen it yet. But this is what I'm saying, that, and you've been very kind, and you keep saying how I'm doing stuff, but it's like, I feel like you're doing it through everything you do. And I think, and I feel that, and I experienced that from before we met. And that's why we've had so many people who are saying, you guys have to connect. Yeah. Like, we both had that, and I've been wanting to connect with you for so long. And now that we're finally here, I'm like, oh, this is even better than I thought it was going to be. And
thank you. I mean, I didn't know what was going to be, but I was just excited, and obviously
and I had really high expectations, but at the same time, I'm sitting here with you, and I'm just like, oh, this is exactly like, I just feel what you said at the beginning of this human connection is so beautiful, and there's nothing that can replace it. Yeah. And when two people are nervous but themselves, and allow themselves to be, and let their inner child connect, like just be that way, then it's great. Yeah. Except when one person's holding back and the inner child's being held back, and it's kind of like you're holding the kid back from its jumper, like holding it back. Yeah. And then that kid can't go and run over and just give someone a hug, because that's what they want to do.
Exactly.
And so, Wow. This is amazing. I'm learning so much. One thing I wanted to pick up on is you've been both a judge and a dancer in your life. And I feel like today when I've been hearing you, it's really interesting to see you do that in your own life. Like go from being a dancer to not being a judge in a judgmental way.
But like a student versus a teacher or
Yeah. Tell us about the role that you've actually played like on America's Got Talent and been there, but versus how you play that role for yourself and for others in your life.
Oh, wow. I just had an experience recently. As my companies are growing, I'm hiring more people and I'm not the youngest person in the room anymore, which is so weird, but actually really exciting. I was with my assistant and a videographer that we just hired, and one's 23 and 22. And I'm just staring at them like, I am so excited for you and your life. Like, I can't wait to watch what you do. But also I feel so honored that I get to be a leader or a mentor for you. And I don't take that lightly. And I've had so many incredible mentors in my life, ones that I didn't even realize were my mentors and some that I've sought after. And my gratitude to them for being so generous just has guided me into wanting to be that as well for these new people that I'm hiring, and that they're gonna add so much value in their own unique way. And so I think for me, because I've been on both sides, and I will continue, I'll always be a student, and then I love that leader position. I really do. I think there's something so also just profound in the shifting of the paradigm of the workplace of it's not about one leader and control, and it is about the equal opportunity and collaboration. So to be really conscious of how I'm leading, not just for my company, but for then when they leave and go on and do things, that's what they're going to shift and take with them. Like, that's so exciting. And so, sorry, I go all over the place.
I love it.
I get so excited.
That's the fun of podcasts. Like, I'm happy that we're having a real conversation.
Yeah. So like, as a student, I'm just so hungry and I'm so curious to learn more. And then I just want to share it. That's the thing. It's like, I don't want to hold this for me to beat you. Like, I want to receive this information so I can share it with you, and we can have these conversations and geek out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What seeing as you've got so many young people on your team, so many people listening, people of all ages listen to our podcast. What are your, like, if you had to say, like, these were 3 things that you wish you knew when you were starting out or when you were building and growing, what would those 3 things be, and what would you want people to hear now, whichever journey they're starting, no matter what age they are? We're all starting.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I mean, I really do believe that because this is my mission and my purpose in the world, I feel like I actually have it pretty clear, which is connect to yourself, trust yourself, do what it takes for you to protect what's important to you. And whether that is your hobbies so that you stay creative and fun and fulfilled, or that you work out, whatever it is, like, protect what's important to you.
Yes.
So self first, 100%. And then service. And that is connection and community and finding your people that are like-minded. And sometimes you have to work for people that aren't like-minded, and sometimes you don't. And that's where trusting yourself, and that's why that, I believe, is the number 1 thing that you have to do before you can go to number 2, is that you know what is good for you. Nobody else knows what's good for you. So if you trust and you say, I don't want to work for this person because this is not integral to what I believe, then you will make that choice, and you will spend less time being like, dang it, I've been stuck in this position for a long time. And doors will open in a way because you have stayed true to who you are. So that's 2. And then the third is absolute contribution to the world. So I think for the last 30 years, I have been more in the egocentric sort of transformation of really finding myself and who I am, and that number one spot of like connection to self. Now I'm in this like community, like coming out a little bit and like finding my people and like building that. And as we do that, we'll move in hopefully to number 3, which is contributing or contribution to the world and what we can offer with no expectation. So it's this self, others, world mentality.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julianne. You're amazing. And
You're amazing.
No, you're awesome. I love that. It's so beautiful hearing it. And we are so aligned.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to figure out more incredible ways to serve together and contribute together and genuinely. But we end every interview with a final 5. So these are final 5 rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So you have to answer them
I have to be quick.
in one
Okay,
word
got it.
to one sentence maximum. It's allowed to go off tangent if I choose for it
Okay,
to, which
got
I
it.
may because you're fascinating. So, okay. First question. What's the thing you're most excited about right now?
Oprah 2020.
Okay. I'm very excited for that as well. I definitely want to come and watch.
Yes.
Okay. Second question. What's a lesson you find it hard to teach others?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Acceptance?
Yeah, that's a hard one to
Acceptance.
swallow,
Yeah, of self and others.
Absolutely. Great answer. Third question. What's the one question you ask yourself the most?
How can I create more?
Yeah. It's a great question.
Yeah.
I love that. Awesome.
How can I create more?
Fourth question. How do you keep your inner child alive?
I play,
Okay.
and that's, through dancing and singing and anything that's a little dangerous.
Okay.
Like
nice.
I like risks.
Okay, let's go into this risk thing.
Okay.
I'm expanding this whole question.
Yeah.
What's the biggest risk you have not yet taken?
The biggest risk that I have not yet taken. Whoa. I have this idea that my old identity was this dream right here, which was to be a movie star and a pop singer and all these different things, right? And that dream has evolved dramatically into business owner, producer, all those things. But I'm still holding on to this pretty tightly. And what I've learned recently, but I still have not let go. This is why this is a big risk for me. It might not look like it from the outside. And this is totally a different risk than like jumping off cliffs, but is actually to let that go and actually realize that I'm still singing and I'm still acting and I'm still doing the things that was the dream, but I'm holding on to the old idea of it. And it's limiting me from actually like fully going there.
Wow.
So like, that's what I'm working on right now.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But that's a big risk because it's like, I have to let that go.
Yeah, totally. Especially when you worked your whole life for something that is visioned as the thing. Yeah. We can definitely talk about that offline.
Yeah.
I'm excited to unpack that. And fifth and final question.
Yes.
If you could give the world, I think I know what the answer is going to be, but I have to ask it. If you could give the world one practice, one habit that you'd want them to do every single day, what would it be?
Well, I'm going to have to say it's Kinergy.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah.
and how are they going to experience it?
So first they'll experience it on tour with Oprah, and then we'll have a little platform for them to experience certain modalities, not the full signature method until we start doing our pop-ups in March.
Amazing. Yeah. So excited. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you. Honestly, this has been so beautiful. And it's been so nice to learn about you in this way and just get to know each other more and share that with everyone else. And I know that there've been so many times in this podcast that you were helping me reflect and think and learn so much through you. So I know that everyone who's listening or watching right now is going to gain so much. So thank you.
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me on your show, your podcast, just your life. I feel very blessed. Thank you.
You're the best. Thank you so much. Honestly. Thank you. Awesome. Great. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. I'd love for you to share the wisdom that you took away, the insights that you learned, any of the practices. I mean, there's so much. I would recommend that you go back and listen to this one again and re-listen to it and make notes and write down what were some of the areas that you want to practice in your own life. Love for you to start practicing those and come back and tell us on Instagram as well. So make sure you tag us on Twitter, on Instagram, and all the platforms so that we can see what you're learning and what you're growing and what you're taking away. Thank you so much for listening and watching. As always, so grateful to each and every single one of you. And thank you to Julianne for coming on and sharing so vulnerably and openly as well. Thanks, everyone.